25 years and consider him to be a dear friend. Charles is a very special person. He's a very kind and generous person. These attributes are reflected as a husband, father, and friend. He also is a very intelligent businessman. As a former director of small business program in the Department of Defense, I recognize Charles Baker as one of the smartest, most knowledgeable small business owners and federal procurement regulations.
The summer of 1999 was a pivotal turning point in my life. Lost with no direction was a daily thought at the time. Financially strapped, paying child support, and soon to be divorced, my Air Force paycheck just wasn't cutting it. I was drowning in debt quickly. This was all a bleak existence surrounding me. I PCS to Andrews Air Force Base on a humanitarian order to help my mother with my dying father. I'm not the most religious guy, but I feel like a higher power had to be watching over me, because at my lowest, Master Sergeant Charles Baker came up with this plan to shake up things, to start MCB lighting. This idea of his became my saving grace that I so desperately needed. Once Charles expressed the grandiose adventure he planned to embark on, I was ready to dive in head first into whatever needed to be done. It was all laid out for us. The starting pay was $25 an hour, and we completed 4 schools per month with a total electrical upgrade. At times, when we would be in our flow, we completed 1 every 10 days, sometimes 2 at a time. It was like a mad scientist experiment. I'm proud to be able to say I was at the birth of Charles's process of becoming a great entrepreneur. Charles offered us more than just money. He provided us structure, purpose, and goals, which made my life undeniably better. These newly found tools allowed me the freedom and stability that changed my life. Charles Baker has had an important impact on numerous lives. I'm proud to be a product of the Charles M. Baker story.
Friendship with Charles Baker by Rob Ragazine. Charles and I were introduced through a mutual acquaintance in the energy services industry several years ago. The person who introduced us had told me about Charles and some of the background of Charles's life and career, as well as Charles' lack of inhibition regarding both of these topics. Having been in the industry as long as I have, I've met a lot of people who claimed a lot of things, and I've been pretty good at weeding through the hype to determine who actually could back up their claims and who couldn't. So I had my guard up when I was first introduced to Charles. However, from the moment we started talking, it was obvious that Charles had legitimate experience and knowledge of the energy industry, and in particular, lighting and the electrical side of the business. He also had a very interesting career in the military. And as described, he was not shy about discussing it and his success in it. He shared some amazing stories that frankly I took with a grain of salt, feeling that if even half of them were somewhat true, it was still impressive. Beyond all the claims, there was a very interesting person who definitely had an interesting career, and I found that I genuinely liked him. And the more we spoke, the more business and personal traits we seemed to share. We spent a couple of hours talking that night and getting to know each other, and I think we both walked away feeling we could and should work together. As time went on, we continued to develop our relationship, including meeting personally with our wives. Also, as time went on, Charles kept backing up all of the claims he had made, including some that I may not have fully believed at first. Charles has many talents, but as it relates to the energy industry, and more directly, contract law, procurement and implementation of projects for federal facilities, and the use of small business enterprises, I have found Charles to be by far the most knowledgeable person on these topics. Not one of the most knowledgeable, the most knowledgeable. This includes the many, many people who are employed by the government, working for large departments responsible to know and enforce these rules. I sat in many meetings and phone conferences where Charles regularly proved he was the smartest person in the room on these topics. He certainly taught me most of what I know about federal contracting. Charles and I have had the pleasure of working together on several projects, and more importantly, we have continued our personal friendship. I was not surprised to hear about the idea for this book and video, and I am honored that I was asked to contribute to it.